I'm Ashley Pickle. That's Greg Powers, and this is This Week
in Cruton.
Nice.
It is This Week in Recruiting, and you got a deadpan look into the camera there. That was next level.
There we go. It was a little bit different this week, but I was ready for it.
He was ready, always ready. And who else is always ready? Well, it's our sponsor partner of this segment, and that is the wonderful Chicken Express.
Yum. I love Chicken
Express. Yum.
Chicken Express is fantastic.
That's everything you need to know about Chicken Express.
Exactly.
Is that
Yum.
it's fantastic.
Yeah. I'm trying to get to where like every Chicken Express in the DFW Metroplex like knows me on a first name basis.
Let's go.
You know, like, hey, it's Greg.
Oh, Grub is back again. Well, yeah, I've always wanted to get to the point at a restaurant where they're like, oh, you want the regular, you know?
Yep.
I know, right?
Maybe that can be your goal with Chicken Express. But yes, it's This Week in Recruiting, where we take a look at some of the top prospects in the Lone Star State, brought to you by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Let's go ahead and start off here with our prospect on the rise. It's Austin Westlake, 2022 defensive end Ethan Burke. And man, he made a big commitment to Mallory's despise. He chose Michigan over offers from Baylor, Kansas State, Nebraska, Utah. I mean, this kid seems to be the guy that can kind of do everything, and he's in the DCTF Hot 100, a really good pickup for the Fighting Khakis out there.
Just when you thought that the DCTF Hot 100 was finalized, right? There comes
Tepper is shaking his fist somewhere at
There's
you.
a 6'7", 225-pound defensive end from Austin Westlake who plays on the state's best defense that commits to Michigan. He had some other offers too, but one thing that I was really blown away with when watching his tape is his get-off for such a long and rangy defensive end. He plays a passionate brand of football, much like the entire Austin Westlake defense, really gets after the quarterback. But I think as he matures in the Michigan strength and conditioning program, he'll add the requisite mass to be, a true strong side defensive end type, and Michigan's getting a lot of publicity this year for the play of Aiden Hutchinson, and I don't want to say this is the next Aiden Hutchinson or anything, because that player, he's like an elite once-in-a-lifetime type of guy, but as far as, recruiting analysts and recruitniks in the state of Texas go, maybe people who talk about recruits on Twitter, this is a guy who's largely flew under the radar, and now when you watch his tape, it's kind of like unjustified. He deserves a bit more publicity, and Michigan has done a good job with the evaluation here. Austin Westlake's got some dudes on that defense, but I think Ethan Burke might be the best of the bunch.
And the thing that I've always been most impressed with about him is the fact that he is 6'7", and a lot of times when guys are that tall and they play football, it's almost hard, especially on the line, to be able to get low enough where people can't just come hit you at your knees. And he really does a good job of making sure that he gets his center weight of gravity as low as he possibly can.
Man, I'm going to have you write some of the recruiting blurbs for DC. That was great.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank
and you've
you.
had the opportunity to see him in person, too, which is, tells the tale. You've seen him snap to snap and know that he's one of those guys who plays whistle to whistle, plays after the whistle, and, takes no plays off. And I think that's important when you're doing some evaluation work as well, to know that this isn't a guy who put together a 1.5-minute highlight reel and that's his best plays and that's it. He's playing full games.
Out.
Yeah.
Yep. And let me tell you, he sticks out on the sideline. When you have 6'7", it's like, oh, there he is.
You can see him over mountains. They're like mountains.
Exactly. All right, that was our prospect on the rise. Let's go ahead and go over to our commit of the week. This one, we're going out to the Hub City, Lubbock-Cooper inside linebacker Kobie McKinzie, a name that you have heard time and time again. He announced his commitment to the Texas Longhorns after taking a visit down there. And talk about a big get for Coach Steve Sarkisian and his staff down there in Austin.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is like an added bonus for Texas fans because he was a one-time Oklahoma commitment. He decommitted in the wake of the news that, Lincoln Riley was going to USC. He quickly picked up an offer from Texas, took an official visit to Austin over this past weekend, liked what he saw there, and decided that that was the fit for him. And one thing that I want to point out when following Kobie, well, there's a couple things actually. First and foremost, he's started as a freshman at Lubbock-Cooper, and he's played a bunch of different roles in that defense. He's played nickel nickelback, whenever he started, and he was a big kid when he did that, so he can really run. He's had a great 4-year career there. He's one of the best players in the state of Texas, checking in at number 19 in the DCTF Hot 100. He's the number 1 inside linebacker prospect in the state, so he's bringing it. But number 2, what I want to point out is I think this is a great fit for the SEC version of the Texas Longhorns.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that it would have been a great fit for the Big 12 version.
Right, it's clashing styles.
When you're looking at what type of player he is, he's a big, strong, he's like 6'2", 240 pounds, can take a thumping. And I think that he can stick at linebacker because he has shown the athleticism throughout the course of his career that he can really, really run. But this is an SEC fit at linebacker, and the Texas fans should be really excited about this get. Evan Stewart committed to Texas A&M over a week and a half ago, and I think a lot of Longhorns fans were disappointed that he didn't rejoin them on their commitment list. But these are the type of guys that I think that you can get excited about because you're going to be playing a different style of football, and this is the type of kid that you need on that defense to start to – you're going to have to play Alabama's and LSU's and
light work.
OU every year. You got to have these type of guys stand up and shut down the run. He's the type of kid that can do it.
Well, and from watching his tape right here too, something that sticks out to me is the fact that he's pretty much Johnny on the spot, but he was smart in putting some of the plays in there where if he did miss the initial hit, his capability to turn quickly and get back to whoever it is that has the ball in their hand is pretty impressive. Yeah. And I think that's cool to showcase too. Like, hey, if I do miss something, I'm not missing him twice.
To me, he's not just a one-trick pony,
mm-hmm.
right? He is a thumper, but he's proven throughout the course of his high school career he can cover. He can do some different things. I just think this is a pretty big get. I moved him up ever so slightly when we did the final, top 100 for DCTF. But I debated on moving them up even higher. That's I guess if Austin Westlake is the best defense in the state, could Lubbock-Cooper be the second best? Maybe Duncanville's in the conversation.
Duncanville's definitely up there.
So, maybe the 3 best defenses in the state right there, and he's the leader on it.
He is Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete joining us for This Week in Recruiting. And let's go ahead and matriculate over to our Underclassman of the Week. This one, heading down south just a hair, Willis, 2024 wide receiver, DJ Lagway. Now, this is a guy that has just an abundance of offers. And when you pick up one from Georgia to add to that list, clearly you're doing something right.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm really excited about the 2024 crop of quarterbacks in the Lone Star State. You got DJ Lagway, who just picked up an offer from Georgia. That was his 10th offer. He also has offers from schools like Baylor, LSU, TCU, Texas A&M, Texas Tech. So he's, that's a pretty wide variance of what schools he could fit into, because you think of LSU as being like that traditional quarterback type of spot. Georgia as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they are picking up guys who can throw the football. Well, he's a tremendous dual threat as well, who can really run with the ball. He passes the eyeball test. But you also have Maber Matower at the Woodlands, and you have Dylan Rayola at Burleson. This is, I'm going to say it now, this is probably those 3 guys are almost certainly top 10 locks
mm-hmm.
in the state of Texas. I don't think since 2012 there's been a recruiting class that's had 3 quarterbacks in the top 10.
Wow.
I think that the top-rated quarterback class was probably the Kyler Murray, Jarrett Stidham year. They
mm-hmm.
were both in the top 5.
What a year that was.
But it's almost a lock that these 3 guys are going to be in the top 10, and they're national type of guys. They're probably going to be in the top 10 quarterbacks nationally.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them could, and it's too early to tell because they're all 3 great, which one's going to be number 1?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough decision.
Yeah, good luck.
To make down the line. We don't have to make that call right now, but it's knocking on the door, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're knocking on the door. All 3 of these guys had standout sophomore seasons, and I think Lagway is probably the most versatile
mm-hmm.
of the bunch and has a very, very high ceiling. His father, Derek, played at Baylor, so we'll see if the Bears can get in there and
I
work
was
that
going to say, do you think that maybe says anything good for the Bears there? Maybe some family chemistry? I mean, we saw it with the Brockermeyers, didn't work out technically, but
I think it was his first offer as well. I'd have to check my notes, but my mind is telling me that Baylor was.
That sounds like a Joey doing.
Yeah. Baylor was his first offer. He has the connections there. But, again, this is going to be a national level guy. And what's interesting, I think, just kind of his picked up an offer from Georgia. There are a lot of folks that feel Burleson's Dylan Raiola is a Georgia lean because he has a lot of connections there early on in their recruitment. So are they trying to come into Texas to get two of the best ones?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this Lagway's like going to be a Georgia commit or anything like that. He just picked up an offer from Georgia this week. It's going to be one of his many options to consider. But it was an interesting offer since they feel like they're in a good spot with Dylan.
Especially the week that they get announced as making it into the college football playoffs.
Right.
You know, like that.
Yep.
That adds a little bit to it, too. So there it is, our underclassmen of the week. Moving on, finally, to our recruit of the week. And, man, I'm going to go ahead and toot Power's horn here that he had been saying this one of we figured it was going to happen. We didn't necessarily think it was going to happen this way, but in the wake of the Mario Cristobal news from that was the Oregon head coach, now is being hired at Miami to fill that position. Summer Creek offensive tackle, a DCTF 5-star in Kelvin Banks, has decommitted.
The first DCTF 5-star that we named in the class of 2022.
That goes back to our NLA camp that we saw him at
He's
years
been
ago.
He's been a wire-to-wire 5-star at DCTF, and I love his senior tape. He showed a lot of progression. I think he's a guy that can, like Kenyon Green at Texas A&M this year, he can play any of the spots up front that you need him to. He can play tackle, he can play guard, and if you want him to, he could probably play center as well. Super athletic. It's only going to get better as he gets stronger in a strength and conditioning program, but has a really, really high upside. But he's already refined, right? Like he's a guy who already kind of knows what he's doing out there, and I think he can come in and contribute early just because he's basically college ready. And you know where he plays at in the Houston area, they're battle tested guys, right? You see him playing against Katie, right here. You know he's going against elite players across from him all the time, and he's been starting there for a really long time. So he will be entering college like with experience, and I think that's pretty important if you want to get an early jump. Texas and Texas A&M were under heavy consideration when he made his commitment to the Ducks, and this is fresh news that he's backed off his commitment to Oregon. Any school in the country would really take Kelvin Banks, no matter what what they have on their commitment list. This is a guy that you would take, but I'll be interested to see where he ends up. There are a lot of top guys out there in the state of Texas still available. I mean, Cameron Dewberry announced his top 3 of Texas, Texas A&M, and OU. I've really felt strongly, I guess not strongly, I felt that Texas A&M could be the team to beat there, and that could be that could go a different direction because a lot of the recruiting pundits had Ohio State predicted for him, and they didn't even make his top 3.
Right.
So where will this one end up? It's an interesting question, but 2 of the state's top offensive linemen will be making quick decisions here as National Signing Day or the early signing period approaches next Wednesday, which also happens to be the opening day of the state championship game. So if you're
what perfect timing.
if you're listening to this, we will have a lot of content for not only recruiting fans but Texas high school football fans in general. Starting, I mean, it's coming. Like all this content is coming, and we're working on it now. So stay tuned. I
was going to say real fast before we let you go, do you have 1 or 2 guys that you think that people should really be keeping an eye on as that early signing day period comes next week?
Well, Harold Perkins, I think he's one of the top defensive players in the entire country. He's really talented defensive player. Denver Harris, he's our number 1 recruit in the state. Everybody's got their eyes on him. Will he stay in state at a school like Texas, or will he go to an Alabama? I think that's a huge question mark.
DCTF cover boy.
Yeah, the DCTF cover boy. I'm still waiting to get my hands on the magazine.
I know.
I thought it would be today, but I'm still waiting to get my hands on that just to flip through it. It's one of my favorite days of the year. Omari Abor. To me, that there's question marks there now. A lot of people had him in the Ohio State camp as well. He was really close to Quinn Ewers, and I think that was playing a role possibly in his recruitment. And now Quinn is leaving Ohio State, and does that have an effect at all on what he's going to do? There are really, this year out of any other year, at least in the last handful of years, there are a lot of major storylines in the state of Texas. big-time players making decisions, and there are a lot of decommitments happening right now. Like, the news is happening hour by hour. Right before we went on the air today, Nick Evers announced his decommitment from Florida. So he's back on the market, DCTF 4-star quarterback. Just a lot of moving pieces here, you know. Coaches are moving. Jim Knowles took the Ohio State defensive coordinator's job, so Oklahoma State.
It's like all the coaching changes can't make this any easier for these kids to decide where they're going.
I think this year you will see a heavier amount of kids wait until after the early signing period.
Nice.
I think the traditional February signing day is going to be a little bit more exciting this year than it has been the last couple of years, and that's just because of all the changes. It may not make sense. You know, Stephon Johnson at DeSoto, who's a DCTF Hot 100 receiver, is committed to Oregon, and now the coach left there. There hasn't been any news on him yet. Will he wait until after, you know, the early signing period? Because, I mean, really, you don't know who your coach is going to be.
Exactly.
You know, so there's some question marks there.
And that's a big thing on people's list.
There are just a lot of guys like that. So, I mean, it's just buckle up. Be patient if you're a fan of a major school. But I think the in-state programs, by and large, Texas Tech, TCU, Texas A&M, Texas, they're all doing a really phenomenal job.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Recruiting. You know, Baylor, you got to be sitting back if you're Dave Aranda and his bunch. Their class has been pretty much buttoned up.
Yeah.
They're probably like loving life right now because
absolutely.
they don't have a lot of guys waffling right now, and they've picked out their guys.
There's no changes going on. They're just winning.
Yep, and they're winning. So, I mean, that's probably the staff that feels like, wow, heading into the early signing period, we kind of have an idea of what's going on. But if you're a fan of one of those other 4 teams, it's going to be I don't want to say bumpy because that's not how I'm trying to.
Maybe a little bit of a roller coaster.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a roller coaster.
A guy who we hope never changes. He's Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. You can follow him at G Powers Scout and follow Next Level Athlete at Next Level D1. Powers, we will not be seeing you for This Week in Recruiting next week, but we will be seeing you at State.
You will.
Fantastic.
We'll have some video content. We'll try to make our faces shown at state championship games.
Good stuff.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.